So we'll get started. Thank you all for virtually attending the Neighborhood Artistic Feature public meeting for the Lawrence Station. My name is Jamie Burkhart, and I will be the moderator this evening. Before we get started, I'd like to run through a few items. As you can see, we have live ASL interpretation this evening. We will also be recording this meeting to share on the project's website so you can refer back to it or share with others. We will have a presentation and then an open engagement session in which we invite you to share your ideas for the neighborhood artistic feature that will appear on the outside of the Lawrence Station. If you have a question or comment during the presentation or Q&A, please write it in the chat box. We will be recording all questions and comments for review and consideration as it relates to the neighborhood artistic feature for the station. Please note that we will only be focusing on that artistic feature this evening. And if you have any construction questions, please email us at rpm@transitchicago.com. Before we begin, I'd like to also thank the 46th and the 48th Ward for their continued support on this project. And now I'd like to hand it off to Stephanie Cavazos to kick off the meeting.
Hi, good evening. Thanks, Jamie. As mentioned, my name is Stephanie Cavazos, and I work in communications on the outreach team for the Red and Purple Modernization Project. We're really excited to begin our workshop tonight, creating a new artistic feature for the Lawrence Station, which is going to open in 2025. First, we're going to talk a little bit about the RPM project and what's been going on with construction, as well as just a quick overview of what the new stations will look like once the project is complete. We're also going to discuss what neighborhood identifiers are and what we're hoping to accomplish through tonight's workshop. And then we'll move into the exciting part. Ink Factory will listen to your ideas and draw real-time visual notes and illustrations of your brainstorming as we talk through what your station means to you and your community. Lastly, we'll open the floor for some Q&A before we wrap up. And okay, next slide, please. So to recap, the RPM Phase 1 project includes 3 areas of work: the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr Modernization Project, the Red Purple Bypass Area, and the Corridor Signal Improvement Project. So as you're familiar, the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr Modernization Project consists of a complete rebuild of the Lawrence, Argyle, Berwyn, and Bryn Mawr stations, making them fully ADA accessible. Also, the rebuild of the adjacent tracks and the support structures in the 1.3-mile footprint, as well as the removal of the 100-year-old embankment wall from Leland to Ardmore. You just saw last month the switch to Stage B, which marked the halfway point of this project, and the full expected completion is in 2025. The Red Purple Bypass project includes the new bypass structure, which carries Brown Line trains over Red and Purple Line tracks, and that's just north of Belmont Station. That went into service in November 2021. And then that was followed by the start of the Red and Purple Line track structure rebuild between Belmont and Addison stations. The track structure rebuild began in early 2022, and that also has an expected completion in 2025. And then lastly, but also super important, is the complete upgrade of a 50-year-old track signal system between Howard and Belmont, and that's going to help us improve train operations and service reliability throughout the entire CTA system. So a lot's going on, and I would like to hand it over to Emily Ryan, who's the RPM project manager specifically for the new Lawrence, Argyle, Berwyn, and Bryn Mawr stations, and she's going to talk about what these new stations will look like, what a neighborhood identifier is, and then how they're going to appear in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Welcome, Lawrence community. So glad to have you tonight. My name is Emily Ryan. I'm CTA's construction project manager for the RPM project, specifically for the LBMM area. And like Stephanie said, specifically for the stations. So let's get going because we want to give you as much time as possible with the artist. Next slide, please. So what is a neighborhood identifier? Each station house, that's Lawrence, Argyle, Berwyn, and Bryn Mawr, will feature unique identifier artistic elements. The identifiers, with your help, will represent the neighborhood and enhance the stations for the community. The identifiers are in addition to and separate from previously announced artwork for each of the new stations. Slide. So tonight we're talking about Lawrence. And as you can see, where this is going to be placed is with the red rectangular on the right-hand side of the screen with the white center. And then there's another location. Slide, please. The previous slide, I'm sorry, was the main station house. This is the aux, and with those two on either side, the right and left of the exit. So we're going to flip pretty quickly through the rest of the station's locations. You can see the information in the next community meeting and tomorrow. But we want to focus on your station tonight. So this is Argyle, Maine, Argyle aux, Berwyn, Maine, Berwyn aux, Bryn Mawr, Maine, Bryn Mawr aux, Bryn Mawr, Hollywood. All right, next slide, please. So the design process and timeline. Today, we are starting the community input process. So that is fall of 2023. It will then move into design development over this winter, early quarter next year of 2024. The design refinement will happen early spring, and then we'll go into the neighborhood identifier fabrication the summer of 2024, and then the installation in 2025. Slide. I'll hand it over to Jamie.
Thank you, Emily. I'd like to introduce Ink Factory, a team of artists who help organizations such as ours communicate visually. They are here to listen, filter, and synthesize the ideas you share tonight into drawings called visual notes. The artists draw in real time while you are speaking. We have Wally tonight from Ink Factory joining us, and she will be creating the live visual notes. She'll be turning your ideas and words into images and text to visually represent the key concepts and themes from this open conversation. And before we begin opening up that conversation, I will read through the prompts that you guys saw when you were registering for this meeting this evening to help spark ideas for you to share with Wally. And once I read through them, we will open up the conversation to you all. To share your thoughts, we ask that you raise your hand by clicking the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen. We will then call on individuals in the order they appear on your screen to share their thoughts. Once called upon, there will be a prompt that appears on your screen asking you to unmute. At that point, please unmute yourself to share your ideas. We may ask a few follow-up questions to continue that engagement. And once you've completed sharing your thoughts, we will move on to the next individual to share theirs. So as you see on the screen, we do have the prompts. So when you think about the neighborhood around the Lawrence Station, what do you think of? What are some of the places or attractions that define your neighborhood? What does the community name Uptown mean to you? And what are some of the ideas, guidelines, or images the artist should consider for your neighborhood identifier? And at this time, I ask you all to raise your hands to share your thoughts and ideas. I see Norma has raised her hand. If we can please unmute Norma.
Hi, is this good?
Yes.
Oh, hi. Okay. First, I just thought, sure, I'll raise my hand. I think I wrote these in the notes too, to the prompts, but I will say that for there are a couple of things I think about Lawrence and Uptown, and one is amazing diversity, one and immigration, but a long case of diversity, lakefront, but especially what I think about Uptown and where that Lawrence Station is, which is right at the intersection, is all the theaters and the longstanding entertainment district starting from the 1920s. So I thought it would be really great to have some sort of 1920s stylistic stuff. I mean, if you think about, there's the big Uptown Theater, there's the Aragon, there's the Riviera, there's the Green Mill, there's the that other small, the Uptown Lounge. I mean, all of those are longstanding entertainment sites, destinations that were part of being a very creative, vibrant community going a long way back, and that are really unique to that intersection and that station. Whereas, as well as the diversity and the mixing, but that pluralism and creativity, and again, that sort of 1920s era that is still there in the architecture seems like a really great thing, including what was the Bridgeview Bank building. That seems like a really great thing to emphasize as in local artwork.
Wonderful. Thank you, Norma. Are there any visuals that come to mind when you speak to the music and the theaters and the diversity, something that the artists can consider when pulling from these suggestions?
That's harder for me. I'm not a graphic artist, and some of the things seem so obvious, like staff notes, from music, sheet music, but also even with fonts or imaging. I really like that sense of that historic aspect. It's really almost unique. That intersection is really unique, certainly in the north side. There are other similar intersections, but they tend to be way west, and some of those buildings have been lost since then, or they're not used as theaters anymore. This is still a theater district. It has that history of being a destination during Prohibition, and it maintained that liveliness. So I don't know quite. I mean, I wouldn't want to say Al Capone, again, but it was supposedly he was hanging around right there. But I'm not good at that, but I think something with the music and that liveliness, or a sense of again, the theater architecture. Sorry, I'm not more specific on that. Maybe
No,
others have a great idea.
That was very helpful. Thank you very much. Wonderful. We will move on to Mike Bauer. I see Mike next on my screen.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
My name is Mick Bauer, and I represent the Ainsley Winmore Kenmore Block Club. And we've been working on enhancing and promoting the Lawrence Corridor as the arts and entertainment destination of Uptown for some time. And we want to ensure that the artwork design strongly promotes the entertainment theme. So I really appreciate all of Norma's comments, and I agree that, the kind of the 20s themed and the neon lights of the marquees are very important to us. Kind of that Broadway specific block text font that's already used in other Uptown branding on our, we've installed recently some more some bike locks on the sidewalks that incorporate the Uptown branding, as well as the flower planters that have that kind of Broadway block text font. I would also support the music, the fonts, but maybe comedy and tragedy, the arts faces could be incorporated too.
Wonderful. And then any additional visuals that you would suggest?
Like I mentioned, comedy and tragedy, just for maybe more of the arts or the theater. But, again, we've got the Riv, we've got the Aragon, the Green Mill. More recently moved into the neighborhood is the Baton. We want to ensure that, that diversity is also included, along with the Uptown Lounge. And again, the lounge has some more of the neon light, also found in the marquee of the Green Mill.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mick. All right. I see Matthew Sanders on my screen next. If we can please unmute Matthew Sanders.
Yeah. Hi. Good evening. This is Matthew. I live in the Truman Square area of the community there, and Mick actually stole a lot of my thunder. The Greek masks for comedy and tragedy were definitely top of mind. As well as the kind of iconic, you talk about images, the Aragon Ballroom marquee with that kind of vertical lettering, as well as the different like flashing lights, neon lights around Uptown Lounge. The Green Mill, I know that Zaragoza has incorporated that into their signage there at the intersection of Broadway and Lawrence. And then the only other piece of kind of different information that comes to mind, I know Lawrence Avenue itself is a designated national bike route. So that was just something else that I think comes to mind when I think of that specific station and multimodal forms of communication. And then the lakefront and Montrose Beach probably being kind of, well, I guess it's a little bit farther south, but the lakefront as well is one other thing that comes to mind. But everything else that's been said has been wonderful.
Wonderful. Thank you. So adding to what we've been discussing already, the lakefront and perhaps the multimodal access there with the bike routes. So I see Matthew Rufy next on my screen with their hand raised.
Hi, everyone. Matthew Rufy. I'm here with Chicago Market, which is the co-op that's opening at the corner of Broadway and Wilson there, actually one of your stops. For me, I'm also a resident right here, and I think he nailed it with talking about the lakefront a bit. And I think the diversity that comes with this neighborhood, when you think about what Uptown means to you, I mean, it's certainly diversity in a number of different ways, right? It's racial diversity, it's socioeconomic diversity, it's diversity of culture, diversity of language. And I think especially knowing that Uptown does speak so many different languages, and I agree with the music piece. Music sort of goes across all languages, but I think leaning into a bit of that, the cultural diversity that we have here, and then local. I think we love local. Whether that's local businesses of any type, and we have a lot of them here. Couldn't tell you, and I'm sorry, I have no artistic talent whatsoever, how you lean into that local piece with our artistic front. But I think something of that nature, and that ties back to that multicultural melting pot that is the Uptown community that we all love, would certainly be wonderful. Thank you so much, by the way, for doing this. And I'm blown away by the artwork already on screen. I can't even draw stick figures. So thank you very much for doing this and letting us participate.
Thank you, Matthew. So the diversity of the languages, the stores, the culture. Thank you very much. So nobody else has their hand raised right now. I see Justin Weidel just raised their hand. If we can unmute Justin.
Hi, Justin Weidel with Uptown United and the Uptown Chamber of Commerce. I really like what everybody's said so far, and I think I just wanted to add a layer of, when we talk to local businesses and residents, we hear a lot that one thing they kind of admire about Uptown is its grittiness. It's kind of the Chicago broad shoulders, wide shoulders type thing, and I think one thing we try to be careful about is when we talk about music and diversity, we try to make sure that it's not fluffy, it's a small world after all, kind of everybody's together and holding hands and singing and planting flowers. But there's a long history of layers of immigration that maybe even had some tough lessons and challenges along with it. We manage the Winthrop Family Historical Garden a few blocks south of this station, and I think we really try to kind of honor Black families who lived in the neighborhood during redlining and social injustices. So I think we want to celebrate our diversity and we want to celebrate immigration and music, but I think we also want to make sure that we honor the hardships that people who have come through Uptown faced, and acknowledge that in some way as well. So I guess that's all I have to add.
Thank you, Justin. I see Nathan Mason has their hand raised. If we can unmute Nathan.
Hi, good evening. I've lived in the neighborhood now for just over 20 years and have seen a lot of transformation in it. I think Justin just raised some very good points about that. The identifier, the neighborhood, is not just about gloss and not just about the new money and the new cleaning up and of everything that's coming in. And I really would appreciate a forward-looking design approach to the identifier. And I think it would also be nice to acknowledge that it's part of a set. So I would like to see a set for all of the what is it? Lawrence, Argyle, Bryn Mawr, Hollywood. I forget what Berwyn. So there needs to be some relationship amongst all the identifiers you're doing. So they're not all just sitting off separately on their own. And I appreciate the sense of history that Uptown has, but so often public projects are mired in historic reference. I would not want us to do an imitation design of the 20s, but look at some really good, the identifier has to be clean and simple and effective. And that calls for really good typography, really simple design, and how you merge the various different desires being expressed tonight. That's a real challenge for your artists, but it's one that can be done if they're allowed time to think and do iterations of design.
So when you speak to that forward looking, can you expand a little bit on that? What does that look like to you beyond the simplicity and the effectiveness of a simplistic design?
Well, knowing that it has to be durable and easy to clean. It's one that isn't, as Justin said, happy clappy, joining hands and singing It's a Small World After All. It may be a design that has very abstract elements, very high color because it's going to be under the L-track, so it's not in a lot of sunlight. I think it just needs to have the suggestion, respectfully, of the history that the neighbors are asking for, but it just needs to step forward. I don't know that it needs to actually use any historic precedents. It's hard to say, but this is what we're paying the artist to do, is to take vague direction from the public and come up with something fabulous.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate it, Nathan.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No, nobody else's hand is raised. I see the Ainsley Winmore Block Club has a hand raised. We can unmute them, please.
Hi there, this is Oliver Aguilar. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm sorry, I came in around 5:45 or so, and I'm loving what's happening. From what I'm hearing, it's great. One thing that our club has been talking about is make sure that the space, and I would assume it's just between Lawrence and Ainsley. Is that correct, Jamie?
For the station identifier?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is actually going to be an artistic feature that is going to be located on the outside of each of the stations. So something that's representative of the Uptown community and specifically in the Lawrence area, the Lawrence and Broadway area.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to reiterate what everyone's been saying, and I agree with them. But it is the entertainment district, and that's what we've been focusing on, at least with our block club, meaning that the art that's associated with it is curated in regards to that type of entertainment that follows that identity as Lawrence Avenue, as well as, of course, there's a diversification of Uptown itself with 60 plus languages that's happening around the area. Again, I apologize for missing the 15 minutes, but are you also talking about what's happening underneath the tracks as well, Jamie?
Not for this evening,
Okay.
specifically the artistic features. So I am actually going to ask you a follow-up question. So speaking of the entertainment district, are there any visuals that come to mind that the artist should consider when creating this artistic feature?
I mean, if I had my way on it, I think it should be about sensory. And I don't know what sensory means to the artist that's going to be creating it. Is it not only just visual, but is there a sense of touch, a sense of smell, and all of those things that makes up Lawrence Avenue? So I think personally, I mean, if we want to be progressive, maybe that's the way to go rather than just doing the traditional type of art per se.
Thank
Let's
you.
think of something new. This is 2023.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Would anyone else like to contribute? No hands are raised just now, but definitely invite more ideas. I'm not seeing any other hands raised. Let me go through some of the answers. Let me see if there's anything that we may have missed. I do see a lot of lakefront, the entrance to the lakefront. The historical nightlife that we've spoken about. Entertainment, music. Diversity, a lot of diversity in the heritage of the community. All right, anybody else? Anybody want to add to what has been said? Any visuals that come to mind? Anything else that the artist should consider? Matthew, if we could please unmute Matthew.
One, thank you so much for this. And I think as far as visuals, the only thing that I would suggest is wherever the artist is coming from, and I don't know if you're talking about the artist that's actually the designer or the artist on screen today, but Oliver brought up some great points just about the art. And I know Justin and the Chamber and all those, they do so much with art around there. I'd strongly suggest just take a walk, right? Take a walk through and look at, there's amazing artwork on Clifton and on Lawrence, all around where this station is coming up. There's so many new artists and so many new artwork pieces that have come up that even though they may not be the uptown past, I like the comment that was talking about looking at the future too. And so whether you're giving a nod to and celebrating and honor the history, take a look at the present and what we've built and everything that's up around this amazing neighborhood, and then start thinking about the future. So really it is sort of take a walk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew. I think I saw another hand raised and then it went down. I see the Ainsley Windmore Block Club again.
Hey, Jamie, it's Oliver again. Can I ask who the artist is going to be? Who is the actual artist? By chance, I might be able to Google that person.
Yes, you may ask that. I don't know if we have the answer. If somebody has the answer of if it will be Wally or if somebody else from Ink Factory, perhaps Lee or Emily has an answer to that question.
This is Emily. I can answer that.
Thank you, Emily.
Yep. My name is Emily, by the way. I'm the CTA's construction project manager for this, specifically for stations. And our contractor, design builder, Walsh Floor, they have solicited Ink Factory, which is real time, basically identifying what has been said during this meeting. And what they will be doing is they are the artist. So Ink Factory is the artist. I don't know if who's doing it right now is going to be, I think she is going to be the final artist because she's in the room and she's listening and synthesizing what is being said. So what she'll do is she'll take this to the next level moving forward. I don't know if you were here in the beginning, but we kind of gave a overview of the design development and timeline. So what will happen is she'll take what she's drawn here and again, just elaborate on it. And this will be what is going to be imposed on metal on the station.
And Oliver, we are recording this evening. And so the recording will be posted on the project's website and distributed via the project email. So if you do go to that website or if you get those emails, you should receive the recording, and then you can hear a little bit more of the background behind Ink Factory and also the station identifier and a little bit more of what that means in terms of building the new stations. Awesome. I see that Norma has her hand raised.
Hi, I love what everybody's said and how much overlap there is, and also the idea board. The one thing that I think didn't get onto the idea board that really struck me was grittiness. And that seems so important to capture the reality of what Uptown has been as an entertainment district. It is not the downtown theaters. It's not Broadway in that sense. I mean, Broadway is the New York kind of theater. And grittiness, I don't know what kind of image, you can't have an image of grittiness, but somehow getting that term onto the idea board seems really important to also acknowledge and bring in how much it's been a neighborhood of also people struggling and finding ways to come together through challenges as well as through arts. So I hope you can stick grittiness in there somewhere. That's my addition. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Norma. Making sure that we add grittiness. Anybody else? Any follow-ups? All right, I am not seeing any hand raising right now. Anything else? I think that's a good point that Norma brought up, something that she felt was missing. Is there anything else that you feel is missing or wasn't captured in the visual note taking that you wanted to add before we perhaps wrap up for the evening? All right, I do see a Q&A popped up. Matthew just wanted to say thank you for facilitating and giving a chance to give the community thoughts. So thank you. Appreciate that, Matthew. Wonderful. So if we could switch back to the presentation, I actually have some ways for you all to stay in touch on the project. And as always, if you have any additional questions or comments regarding the neighborhood artistic feature or construction or anything project related, please feel free to reach out via email at rpm@transitchicago.com. And thank you again for coming. We hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.